days and we remember them. I would like to read two letters from two friends that are very much near and dear to our heart. This is from Senator John D. Rockefeller IV. Thank you all so much for allowing me to be part of today's ceremony. I am truly sorry I cannot be there with you in person, but I am certainly with you in spirit, along with the multitudes of others around the world. For more than 60 years, International Human Rights Day has been focusing on the world's attention for the rights of all people. This year's issue, ensuring all voices are heard in the public life and the political decision-making, is especially close to my heart. As a lifelong public servant, I have fought to give voices to all those vulnerable in our own society. Responsibility to our brothers and sisters, whether down the street or across the ocean, is a sacred one. Thank you all for standing today in testament to the working men, to the many working for social justice and human rights. I look forward to continuing our fight and working together. Senator John D. Rockefeller IV. Congressman Nick Joe Rahal. When it came to protecting the health and rights of workers, few, and if any in history, can rival the tireless work of Robert C. Byrd. When it came to protecting constitutional rights for our country, no one can match the veracity of Senator Byrd's abiding conviction about the rule of law. I applaud the AFL-CIO President Kenny Perdue choice of venues to celebrate our most basic rights, here under the watchful eye of Senator Byrd. To much sacrifice of life and limb have been freely given to the secure rights here at home for us to turn a blind eye to threats of liberty elsewhere. The vigilance against such threats, as our founders warned, can never wane. And it is true that workers' rights denied anywhere challenge the most established workplace rights everywhere. That is why time and time again I have insisted that treaties and international trade agreements our nations enter into must guarantee basic workers' protections for foreign working men and women. Not only does this help ensure a more level playing field for our nation in the global marketplace, but it exports one of our greatest assets, the fundamental belief in the intrinsic value of working men and women and the worth of protecting their health, safety, and livelihoods. In this past year, in this last letter, Jefferson predicted, all eyes are opening to the rights of man. The general spread of the light of science has already laid open to every view the palpable truth, that the mass of mankind has not been born with saddles on its back, nor a favored few booted or spurred, ready to ride legitimately by the grace of God. Until we can clearly see the rights of mankind this day, we annually serve to remind us of great work remaining before us. But it also gives us a pause to say thank you, like the men and women of the AFL-CIO, whose continuing contributions keeps the flame of liberty burning brightly. Warmest regards, Congressman Nick Joe Rahal. Today we recognize the struggles not only of this state and this community, but the world. The Universal Declaration of Human Rights was written for a reason. And today we will read the 5 sections you see up here today. Article 25, Section 1. Everyone has a right to a standard of living adequate for the health and well-being of himself and his family, including food, clothing, housing, medical care, and necessary social services, and the right to security in the event of unemployment, sickness, disability, widowhood, old age, or the lack of livelihood, and the circumstances beyond his control.
Everyone has the right to form and join trade unions for the protection of his interests.
Everyone, without any discrimination, has the right to equal pay for equal work. Everyone who works has the right to just and favorable remuneration, ensuring for himself or herself and his or her family an existence worthy of human dignity and supplemented, if necessary, by other means of social protection.
Motherhood and childhood are entitled to special care and assistance. All children, whether born out of wedlock, shall enjoy the same social protection.
Thank you very much. appreciate all of what you said. I would ask now for Gary Zuckett. Please come forward. Gary is the director of West Virginia Citizen Action Group and chairman of West Virginia United. Thank you, Gary.
Thank you very much, Kenny. You have to bear with me. I'm just getting over a cold. But we are really in a very turn point situation here in our country. We have 30 or so corporate CEOs going all over the country right now, spending $30 million, asking us to fix the debt. They're saying that we do have a large debt, but we also have a very large working population. I'd like to bring up one of these CEOs, Jeffrey Immelt, who's the CEO of General Electric. I believe General Electric is one of those big corporations that didn't pay any income tax in the last several years. But he would like us to fix the debt on the backs of the working class.
No.
What's life like at the top 2%? This gentleman here has a $53 million retirement account. He made $7 million from GE in 2011. And the Bush tax cuts gave him a cash back of $324,000. So I say, when they say fix the debt, I say not on my back.
That's right.
Working families have already paid the price to reduce the deficit. Rather than supporting more huge tax cuts for millionaires, Congress should focus on protecting families who have already taken an economic hit. Federal spending was already cut by $1.5 trillion in reductions in 2011. 60% of those cuts came from programs important to our families, such as education, food safety, environmental protection, and law enforcement. We don't need more across-the-board cuts that will make things work for struggling families here in West Virginia and across the country. We need to end the Bush tax cuts for the top millionaires in this country. We need to make everyone, including corporations and millionaires, pay their fair share.
That's right.
And another thing, we had a meeting with Senator Manchin a week ago, with Senator Manchin and three bishops here from West Virginia. And Manchin talked a whole lot about the military budget and how that also should be on the table when talking about cutting programs. He outlined how after Korea and after Vietnam and after the Cold War, how the military budget was reduced. And he's supporting a reduction in the military budget to similar percentages as after all those conflicts that we were in. So I really think that there's a way to get out of this without balancing the budget on the backs of grandma and the school kids and the firemen and the workers in this country. I think we really need a balanced approach. We need everyone to pay their fair share. And when they say fix the debt, what do we say? Not on our backs. When they say fix the debt, what do we say? Not on our backs. When they say fix the debt, what do we say? Not on our backs. That's right. Amen. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Rick Wilson with the American Friends Service Committee. Today, on Human Rights Day, I also want to call to mind President Franklin Delano Roosevelt, who in his address to Congress in 1944, as World War II was calling to an end, called for a second Bill of Rights, an economic Bill of Rights for all Americans that precluded protecting the rights of workers, the rights of veterans who served their country during that war, included the right to housing, to health care, to gainful employment, many of the rights that eventually became engraved in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Now, the reason we're here today is not only to celebrate this day, but because we're facing a crisis in Washington, the so-called fiscal cliff. And here's something that's really newsworthy. I actually agree with Newt Gingrich about something. Newt Gingrich said that this is a problem made in Washington, D.C. I think he's right about that. Newt Gingrich also said this is a terrible way to make decisions. So there's a lesson in that even a broken clock is perfectly right twice a day. Moving on, you know, there are simple ways to get out of this problem. One is, as Gary and everyone else has said, you cannot cut your way to a good economy in this state. Two, we need to look at revenue, specifically undoing the Bush tax cuts for the wealthiest Americans. Is it a surprise that when you take billions and billions away from the federal budget that the deficit goes up? Is this a surprise to anybody here today? It's like, if you take gasoline out of your car, can you go farther? I don't think so. Number two, we need to protect programs for working class people, for low income people, for seniors, for children, for people with disabilities. Number three, as Gary Zucker mentioned and as Senator Manchin has said, we need to look closely at making responsible cuts in military spending while also protecting the security of this country. And I'd just like to mention some of the programs that will take a hit if these automatic cuts go across the board. I'm not going to go in detail because there's too many of them. Let's just say Head Start is going to get whacked. Return on Infant Care is going to get cut. Financial aid, childhood nutrition, public health services, community development block grants, childcare, family violence services, educational programs, veterans programs, across-the-board cuts that will negatively affect almost every working family in this country. This cannot be allowed to happen. We call for responsible resolution of this crisis that was made in Washington. Thank you.
I'd like to have Hattie Johnson to come up here, please, and tell us her story. She's got a heck of a story, guys.
It's not so much a story as it is facts. What I need to convey to you all today is facts about home health. I am a home health worker, not provider, but worker. We go into the homes of those that have the least in this state, or say the least in the United States, and we provide them with quality care to allow them to maintain some type of quality in their life before they move on. You know, their greatest fear is that people like me aren't going to come in and work with them and they'll have to go to nursing home. That should never be a fear of anybody that lives here in the United States, which is the greatest country in the world, and they have resources for everything. So we need to continue to think about taking care of our seniors who are on Medicare, who are on the waiver program. That's what I do. I go in the morning and I get them ready for their meals and I give them their bath, and if they need their bottoms clean, I clean bottoms every day. I prepare meals, I wash floors, I do whatever's required to keep them in their home. And that puts a smile on their face, and at the end of the day, my 4 hours or 2 hours when I go home, I feel good because I have helped them, and we all may one day go there, but we hope not. But if so, we want an agency like Central West Virginia Agency that's in Buchanan, West Virginia, that has a regional office out Big Chimney. Folks like me, I work with girls, women, and men like myself. That is our desire to perform the quality that's required to give you the comfort of knowing, even though you're receiving end-of-life services, you receive it with dignity and grace. And that's what we're all about. So God bless y'all. Thank you for listening to me.
Story, but a heck of a speaker too. Thank you very much, Hattie.
Very well.
Those are the examples that we're talking about. There are people out there that need care.
Yes.
And I think of myself personally with being chairman of a Head Start program in the state of West Virginia with 11 counties. I watch the lives and I listen to the people, how they affect the 3 and 4 year olds. You talk about the 3 and 4, there are next generation of kids coming up, going into, we want them to get the best. To think that we may even consider cutting programs like that, shame on us.
Right.
The reality is we need to stick with what
Amen.
makes this country
Amen.
run and protect the working people.
Amen.
There are cards over here.